Hi, it's Chef and Builder Janie Pendleton. We are back in one of the bedrooms here. I'm putting together a baby quilt for my grandson. A lot of you have been so supportive and have written me such beautiful letters when you found out that in the last baby quilt, lap quilt video that I made, and you can go right here, I'll post that link to that right here, that I lost my granddaughter due to cord around the neck. And 2 weeks before due date, when they handed me her, I'm telling you, my heart was just broke. I was extremely sad. People complained that my birds in the background were chirping in that video for the first 5 minutes of the video. And I also lost my bird a week after I lost the baby. They got pregnant again and lost another one at about, I think she was at about 16 weeks, 14 to 16 weeks pregnant. And we don't even know what that one was, but the quilt that I did for Lila, she was buried with that quilt. Well, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer today or anything. I'm just telling you that I had a wonderful outpouring of viewers and all the wonderful letters, and I really do appreciate all the wonderful things that you guys said. Well, the good news is I am a grandmother. They gave birth to a son, Carter Glenn, about 2 weeks ago. So he came a little early, so I didn't get the quilt made that I wanted to get made. But here I am. I was washing sheets on the bed, and I thought this white background would make a good, from the mattress pad, would make a really good backdrop so you could see this quilt better, because it's got a lot of whites and a lot of creams in it. So they wanted me to make them a John Deere quilt. So what I have here is all kinds of materials that I have cut out for different quilts that I've made him already, and this is just some of the 3.5 and 3.5 squares. And I thought, well, you know what? He had handed me some fabric that was already had some of these in there, and I cut them all apart and I made individual squares out of them, and I realigned them all and I ran them diagonally with the pattern here. You can see how I did that, and I went from a medium, dark, medium, the blues, and then darks, lights, and I kind of gave myself that striped look. And I had some really good John Deere fabrics here that somebody had sold me a while back on eBay, and I just had a feeling it was going to be a boy. Plus this whole sheet here that Jonathan had got me that I had cut apart. And he also got me this fabric here, which is really cute, but because the squares weren't, 3.5 inch squares, and I really couldn't do anything with the squares no matter how I cut them out. See, I tried cutting them out different ways. I just couldn't make this work no matter what I did. So we went ahead and I scrapped the idea I originally had, cut the main sheet apart, cut some of the pieces of fabric here that I had apart, and made just a bunch of squares. And this is the pattern, and let me get better here so you can see it. And this is the pattern that I came up with. Now I was short a couple of pieces, so I had to kind of work this corner, but it's fine. It's just a baby quilt. It's fine. So once you get your pattern set and you get the size of squares that you want, on a baby quilt, I usually go with 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, so once you get your pattern laid out, we're going to do just like I did in that other video. And if you want, you can go watch that video first. Just skip through the birds tweeting in the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes of the video, and you can get to the actual making of the quilt. All right, so just put a pin in the upper left-hand corner, okay? And then we want to take, and what you're going to do is you're just going to keep this on top, and you're going to go like this. Grab the next one, grab the next one. Okay, so what I did then is, and I'll show this to you one more time. You just take the top one like this because you have this in a specific order. So you take that one and lay it on top of this one, and then this one, and then this one, grab them all, and then back down on this one, etc. Okay, and you're going to do this on down the entire row. Now when you get that row, you're going to pick it up just like this, keeping this one on top because it's the one that goes all the way up to here, okay? It's for our pattern, and we're going to take it in and we're going to sew this on the machine. Alright, so what we have here now is we still have our pin in this upper corner, this upper left corner, and we have sewn these together, giving ourselves a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Now the color of your thread here just doesn't matter. I went with a light color thread of what I had in the machine and what I had on the bobbin. That's fine, because we're not finishing the top or the bottom of this out. That's not going to be seen yet. I try not to use a really dark thread when I'm using a lighter color quilt, just so that way in case there's a string inside, you don't see it through the white fabric. See, I can kind of see my fingers through the fabric here a little bit. So a lighter color thread. So I went with what I had in there. It was like a light peachy pink kind of color when I made that wedding quilt for my daughter. Alright, so now we have taken with the same seam allowance and we have sewn all these together by sewing right sides together. And we just kept adding the next one and the next one and the next one, right sides together all the way down, and that way we stayed with our pattern. Alright? So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish sewing these other long strips, and we'll be right back. Here, we have our little lines right here, and I'm going to go with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And you remember that this was our top piece. So I'm going to find the right side and put it up like this. And I'm going to kind of sit this back out the way that I kind of had it. Just like that right there, okay? So we know that the stripes went this way and that the John Deere, you know, so I can read it, it's going to be matched up all the way across. So I'm going to give that a turn, just like that right there. Now, I did not do a very good job cutting out that quilt. I mean, my scissors, I did not have my roller scissors with me. But it doesn't matter. This is just a baby quilt. We're not piecing anything special together. This is just your beginner, simple, do it, get it done quilt. I'm not even doing a very good job since I get on film, am I? Alright, there we go. Try to square it up the best you can. Now, again, we're just going to keep this at about a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Now some people will tell you that you don't have to backstitch, and normally you wouldn't. If I was going to take my next ones and then just start feeding them through like this, then I probably wouldn't backstitch that. You know, I just come through here and just start clipping them apart and then open them all up, press them open, and then sew them together. And I'll have to show you how to do that on the next quilt. But this time, I have a certain pattern that I'm going with, you know, this direction. So I am going to go ahead and tack the beginning and the end stitches. So I'm going to hit my reverse button. Oop. There we go. Sorry. Never works when you're on camera. There, just a couple of tack stitches. Just to make sure that it doesn't come undone. Doing it this way wastes more thread, see? That's about how much you waste per row. But yeah, this is the way I like to do it. Everybody has their kind of their little way of doing things. This is my way of doing things. Okay? So when I open this up, right sides together, and you're looking at the quilt, all my John Deeres will be upright, coming all the way down at that angle. As a matter of fact, all these patterns have an angle. So I'm just going to stick with it and do the flip. Stick with it and then do the flip, just like this. So I have this sitting a certain way. Again, I just did a tack stitch. I don't have an automatic raise on this machine. I do have other sewing machines. Oop. That was weird. Alright. And then there we go. And we're just going to keep going until we have this whole line done. I'm going to sit it like this again in front of it. I want my John Deere here to read upright with this John Deere. Okay, we're just going to show you again. We're going to put it here. Like I said, I had to cut some fabric down that already looked like a quilt. That was like printed that way, and that's why this looks the way that it does. I could have used my rotary cutter, that would have been nice, but And we know where to start, that this is at the top, this is the next one. The first stripes go this way. Right, there we go. And we're just going to keep on going. We're going to use this right, I'm just using the edge of this right here as my 1/4 inch seam allowance guide. And just kind of got off a little bit there. Alright, we're halfway done doing this section. Alright, we'll be back when we're getting ready to sew all the sections together longwise. And we'll be right back. Okay, that one's on top. Okay, I'm going to go finish sewing these. We're halfway done sewing the quilt top, and when we come back, we will sew these together along this edge right here. And what I do is I just pick it up and pinch it right here, and I just carry it over to the machine just like that right there. So you can see I got a nice diagonal striped pattern going at this point. And what I'll do is I will sew these two together, then I'll sew these two to this third one, then I'll sew these three to the fourth one, and so on. Alright, this is so easy to do. We'll be back when we're ready to sew those links together. Alright, so I've got all the pieces sewn together. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give this a flip like this on the first one, just like that. I'm going to pinch up here in this corner on this side right here. This right here is the side that I'm going to sew. And then when I get that, oops, well, it's not even right there. And when I get these sewn together right here, when I get that seam sewn together, then I'll open it like that, and we'll sew it to this seam to the next one, and I'll pick it up here, and we'll do the same thing again, all right? So we're going to go ahead, and we're going to start sewing the strips together. And like I said, when I pick it up, I just pick it up in this corner so I know what side I'm sewing right here. Okay, so I'm going to show that to you one more time. Okay, give it a flip. Set that right there, give it a flip. Pinch that corner, take it to the machine, and you can pin it or not pin it. I'm usually pretty good about not having to pin it. And what I do is I just match up all of my seams like this right here. It might mean that you open them, or it might mean that you turn them one way or the other, just like that right there, if you can see that. Okay? Like this one, probably turn it that way. And I'm just going to run it through the machine like that right there, okay? And we'll be right back. Alright, so I have these two here sewn together. And now I'm just going to take the third strip, take the two, lay it over like this, pinch this upper corner, and I know that I'm going to sew that piece right here. Okay, I'm going to show that to you one more time. Okay, you sew these two together, give it a flip on the next one, pinch that corner, and take it onto the machine, because that's where we're going to sew next, see? Like that right there. And that will keep our pattern running down at a diagonal. Alright, we have the first three strips sewn together. And now we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to sew on strip number 4. And when we get number 4 sewn on, then we're going to sew on strip number 5. Alright? And we're just going to keep on going until we get these all sewn together. So this is an 8 by 10 on the squares. So we're 8 wide and 10 long. And you can make yours as big as you like. This is just a crib quilt that I'm making for my grandson. So it's, you know, he's a newborn. It's going to be a while before he's going to, this won't fit him as a lap quilt or something. Matter of fact, it'll probably be worn out by the time that happens. And, okay. Now, I don't even pin these joints together. You can, but I don't find it necessary, because when we get done, we're just going to be using the yarn ties. And we're just going to take a needle and put the yarn in, and we're going to tie these off on all the corners. So, so this does not have to be perfect. All right? All right, we'll take this to the machine. We've got this corner right here pinched, so we know this right here is our side we're going to sew. All right, and we will be right back. All right, we've got this pinched right here. We put it through the machine on the left side. same 1/4 inch seam allowance. Back stitch. Make sure that your joints line up right there. To make these line up, you might have to push these opposite directions of each other. And yes, I do back stitch over my seam. Nope, I'm getting off there. This fabric is giving me nothing but headaches. Let's try this again. There we go. And now we're back on it. Now we're back on it. Alright, if I push this way and this way. Might have to lift your presser foot just to make that fit. And again, this is just my method of doing it without using pins. You can certainly use pins, that's no big deal. And that's how we do it lengthwise. Be sure and cut off your extra strings here. And if you need to, be sure and get yourself a seam ripper. You never want to sew and not have a seam ripper. I have several of them on hand. I'm going to iron this, and I'm going to iron all of these down and in the right directions. And we'll have a nice ironed top. Okay? Now when we do that, we'll be right back. Okay, and just like we did the other quilt in the other video, we've got our backing layer, and this is just a really soft flannel. It's really, really super soft for baby. Then I did another double layer of batting here. I just folded it in half. And here I just left about 1.5 inches along the edge. And then we take our quilt top and we stretch it right to the edge of the batting. Okay? Alright, then we're going to take this here and we're going to grab some pins and we're going to fold this over about 1/2 inch. We're going to hold this down and then fold this right over just like that right there, and we're just going to put a pin in it right here. And we're going to do this all the way down the quilt, just like I showed you in the other video. And this is how we do the quick binding, okay? This over on the machine, make sure this is tucked in real nice, got a nice fold to it, and I will move the needle over to the, and we'll do this probably about 1/8 to maybe 3/16 of an inch from the inside edge here, and we'll sew that on. You can hand quilt this if you want to, but if you do, you're probably better off making this a single layer of batting. It makes that a lot easier to quilt. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pin this, and we will be right back. Okay, we have the quilt bound, and you can see here where I just did the tuck on the corners. This is a little thicker than the other cotton fabric that I was using for the flannel, so it's a little harder to get my presser foot to go through such a thickness as this. But you can see here that I just double tucked it, brought it over, pinned it just like that right there. So the back just rolls back over, and I just tucked it and pinned it in just like that right there. All right, now we're going to come here on the machine. Let me zoom you in. All right, I'm just going to come here onto the machine. And I turned off these side lights so you could see what was happening a little bit better here. And what I've done is I've taken my needle and I've pushed my needle over. You see that? And I pulled it over like that. I'm going to grab my hand. I'll try to do it this side so you can see. Well, I'll have to do it on this side. Hope you can see. And I'm going to go forward. And I've got my thumb right here on this thread right here. And I'm using this mint collar thread so you can kind of see what I'm doing here. And come around just like this. And I'm going to have to get rid of some of the pressure off my pressure foot. It's a little bit. And I'm going to have to make sure I got my setting on about 3 stitches. 1/4 inch. There we go, and you can see how we are sewing just right here along the edge. Normally you don't want to sew over pins, but sometimes when I'm binding a quilt, you kind of don't have any choice. But if you can't avoid sewing over pins, then I definitely suggest you pull them out. Come back. Alright, and we're going to go on around the quilt, and when I get to this corner, I'll show you how I come to this corner. What I do is I sew straight like this, I lift my pressure foot, give the whole quilt a pivot like this on the needle, and I come down this way, and then I kind of back out down this way right here again. Sometimes, like I said, it's better to keep that pin in when it's so thick. Alright. I think I was doing better when I was sewing over the pins. Alright. A lot harder when you're doing this. See, look how thick that is. So I'm going to have to remove this pin to reduce some of the thickness. So I'm going to pull this on through. Watch your fingers. Forward again. Now I'm going to sit my needle in here, lift my pressure foot, and I'm going to give this a pivot. Okay, and kind of work that around until it works. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and try to back stitch and kind of sew this little lip down the best I can. Oop. Okay, let's try that again. There we go. So that was as far back as I was able to get it. Be careful, you don't want to bend your needle. Actually, I'd like to go over just a little bit further with this one. Forward, go back. Pivot, and let's see how far back we can actually go here. I went a little further with that one. Drop the presser foot again. Nothing runs like a deer. Okay, and here it is. I've got about 4.5 hours in it, and I still have to bind it yet with the yarn. But no, I think it turned out really beautiful with all the different fabrics that I had saved, the John Deere fabrics. I was short a fabric here, so I had to stop that one. These right here didn't follow along and that didn't, but I ended up making it work. And I'm really happy with it. I love the way the deer run right through the middle. Get it? The deer run, running deer. You know, John Deere runs like a deer. Anyway, yeah. So if any of the John Deere owners out there get that little thing, but yeah. And then we went with every other one that had the deer in the center here, And so that worked out really well. All right, so be sure and leave a comment below. Let me know what you think of my John Deere baby quilt and how simple and easy that this is. You can do this. And if you have any questions, like again, leave that question or comment below. Be sure and hit the subscribe button. Yeah, Lexi says, give me the thumbs up. And let us know what you think. Okay, I promised you that I would talk about binding the quilt. And all I got here is some soft baby yarn. It's perfect for baby quilts. It's just really soft and durable. And what I've done is I've got a large needle here with a large eye on it that you can put the yarn in. And I just cut me off a long tail just like this. Okay? And then what we do is we're going to tie it to bind it. So I just come in here like this in the corner, come back through the corner like this right here, pull it through like this, leave a tail about like that, come straight down like this, back through, make sure you go through all layers, leave a little bit right here. We're just going to keep going like that right there. And it doesn't take long at all to bind the quilt. You can sharpen your needle actually, or get a little bit sharper needle than I have here. Remember to leave a little bit loose right there. There we go. Take the scissors and cut. Cut your loops just like this. And then you tie them. 1, 2. And then you cut them evenly like that right there. I'll show that to you one more time. You just tie it like this. 1, 2. Don't tie it too tight. For your length. And give it a trim. Okay? And when we get done, we'll have a beautiful tied quilt. Everybody loves these quilts. They're easy to make. They make great gifts. They're great for your own family. Make one for grandma. Make them for the nursing homes. People in the nursing homes, they love getting gifts like this. They really do, don't they, John?
Yes.
And I'd be sitting here next to me watching me bind the quilt. And this is just another way to do it. You can hand stitch this and hand quilt this if you like, but I just find that this right here is just really easy and quick. It's fun, and that's all there is to it right here. All right, to show you up close one more time, take the needle in like this. Make sure you go through all layers. And just pull your yarn through like this right here. Sorry, hit the camera. Pull your yarn through. Make sure you go through all the layers. Make sure you fill up in there. Make sure you fill the metal of that needle up underneath there. Keep going with that. And then you just cut and trim. And then here we do 1 tie, 2 tie, hold them both up, and give it a trim, just like that right there. All right, I'll show you one more time here. 1 tie. Don't want to do it too tight. I think I did a little bit too tight there, but give it a trim. And then we just continue to do this across the entire quilt. And you can see here how that looks. See? We just tied all the corners at every corner. See that? And especially on red quilts or pink quilts, this looks really good. On a white quilt, this is a little harder to see. You could probably use the John Deere green or even the John Deere yellow as far as yarn goes if you want it to be a little bit more bold. But I really like this soft baby white, and I can use this on adult lap quilts or anything else. So this is going to get used. And plus I also crochet, so that's a nice soft shimmery yarn. And again, I'm going to show you this needle up close, what I'm using. It's just a large-eyed needle.
Right.
Blessings.